And welcome to the Groundhog's Day edition of And They're Off. Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow the other day. He must be in the only place in the eastern U.S. where the sun has actually been out. Anyway, that means 6 more weeks of winter. The good news is the rodent is wrong most of the time, just like the handicappers who blather on TVG. Steve Haskin, judging from these 6 inches out my window, that little furball got it right this time. It sure looks like 6 more weeks of snow to me.
That's okay. That's 3 weeks sooner than Cairo Prince's next start. So let's put it this way. The next time we see Cairo Prince, Punxsutawney Phil will be long gone, and the Easter Bunny will be here.
All right, Bridgegate. No, we're not going to talk about the bloated governor of New Jersey. We're talking about the other Bridgegate, the recent announcement that Verrazano, get it, who is retired to stand at Ashford Stud in Kentucky, is now being unretired and has been sent to Aidan O'Brien in Ireland to continue his racing career. Verrazano is a multiple Grade 1 winner here. He's a horse who has shown brilliance. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I remember of him from the Derby last year is he's certainly an impressive and good-looking horse as well. He's a son of more than ready, of course, a sire who has had his greatest success with runners overseas. I get that. But Verrazano was not going to have any trouble attracting mares here. Steve, what the hell is going on with Verrazano?
Well, you know, you never know what's going on with Coolmore. They have their own agenda, and who knows? Listen, maybe they're looking for the next Frankel, and they feel that Verrazano is the horse that's capable of being the next Frankel, and also they might want to promote him and try and sell him to the Australian breeders who have a ton of money and who they deal with all the time. And the Australians don't give a hoot about dirt horses. So if they can establish him as a world-class miler, you know, in Europe, he might become more attractive to the Australians.
Yeah, I'm still...
You know what? The bottom line is, I'm not going to knock it. You know why? Because he shouldn't have been retired in the first place as a 3-year-old.
Yeah,
we lose all these horses already. I mean, he's only 4. To me, he's got a great career. A horse with that kind of brilliance.
Yeah.
And like you said, a horse with that kind of good looks, he should be running. So listen, if he does well, fine. I'll be rooting for him. You know, even if it is in Europe, it's nice to see him hanging around as a 4-year-old. You know, and listen, maybe he'll return here next year and finally beat Wise Dan in the Breeders' Cup Mile.
I'm not knocking anything. It's just unusual to retire a horse, say he's going to stud, and then all of a sudden change your mind and say he's not going to stud, especially with a horse who is not going to have trouble attracting mares. That's not the reason he's not standing in America. So very interesting. Anyway, good luck to Verrazano and Bridgegate. All right. The Kentucky Derby trail is as cold and murky as the weather out here. Horses are running fewer times. No one seems to be emerging as the 1st, 5th, or 10th favorite for the Derby. And the most compelling performances so far have been turned in by 2 New York breds. All right, Steve, what's going on with your 3-year-olds?
Well, it's very simple. No one wants to run their horses anymore. How can you evaluate the 3-year-olds when they don't run? When they do run, they run 2 times before the Derby. You know, I mentioned Cairo Prince before. He's going to have 1 race in 14 weeks leading up to the Derby. His next start's going to be in 9 weeks. That is, if they do pass the Fountain of Youth, like Karen McLaughlin said, they're thinking very seriously about doing. Listen, I mean, I don't want to keep, harping on the same thing and sounding like an old fogey the way things used to be, but I'm not saying it can't be done. I'll have another one at Derby with 1 race in 12 weeks, but he was geared for stamina, number one. And you saw the way that horse trained. I mean, that horse, when he trained, I mean, when he galloped, he was working. So, I mean, we saw him out there every day. And like I said, he had a ton of stamina. But listen, I don't know what's going on with these horses anymore. I think the problem is these trainers, they want so badly to get to the Derby that the less they know about their horse, the better. You know what I mean? You know, if your main goal is winning the Derby, that's a different story. Then you have to go out and you have to let that horse prove that he is a Derby horse. But the trainers today, they don't want to know. If they can get to the Derby by running in grass races and then going in the poly track at Keeneland and taking a shot, hopefully that he'll like the dirt, or hopefully he can get into the Derby off of 2 starts. You know, with the point system now, you would think that they'd want to run more often to secure points, because it's so easy to lose points in that last prep if you get a bad trip.
Yeah.
So listen, it's the way things are done now. I don't like it. I like, when you run a Derby trail, I want to see the horses. You know, back then we knew who the Derby horses were, and we knew something about them. By the time they got to the Derby, we knew everything we needed to know about them, how they ran, if they were tough, if they had, you know, if they had guts, if they had stretch runs, if they won big, what they looked like. We were so much more familiar. Horses get to the Derby now, we really don't know who they are. We're all guessing.
Maybe they don't know about Vinceramos, winner of the Sam Davis last week, who was owned by Twin Creeks, my neighbors around the corner from me in Nonsuch, Kentucky. Twin Creeks is doing a great job. They've raced Gradar, they've raced Mission Impossible in recent years, and they are putting Nonsuch on the map. So a big shout out to the folks at Twin Creeks in Nonsuch, Kentucky, Steve.
So, Nonsuch, Kentucky. I'm glad the way you said that they're close to your farm.
Yes.
I forgot now. How many broodmares are you up to now?
I have several dogs.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And listen, if you're going to mention Vince Ramos, by the way, don't forget about the horse's breeder, Mackmore Hall. They got stakes winners coming out of the woodwork now. They're everywhere. Plus, they have 2 horses on the Derby Trail.
Yeah.
And just a shout out to Carrie and Craig Brogdon. I mean, they're doing an incredible job in this. Yes. Slowly becoming a major force. I shouldn't say slowly. I should say rapidly becoming a major force in the breeding industry. So a shout out to them.
Yeah, they've been doing well for years now. Definitely a great job by the Brogdons. All right, guess what? The field is the favorite in the second round of the Derby Future Wager, which indicates a couple of things. There's not a sniff of a favorite emerging, and this bet is a joke for not taking each horse as a separate individual wagering entity. 2014, folks, does the technology really not exist to offer a real futures wager? Really? Come on.
Look, everyone's beating this to death, and it doesn't do any good. I don't bet the future wager, so I'm not going to get worked up over it. But we all know that they should be taking bets on every individual horse, and they're not for whatever reason. We know they can, but they're not. So what are you going to do? I mean, you have to live with it.
Yeah,
the new pool's out. I'm fascinated by the inclusion of Matterhorn. I'm not saying this horse is not going to turn out to be a good horse, but with all the stakes horses floating around this year, you know, Matterhorn has run one time. He broke his maiden by a half a length. So, I mean, you know, granted he beat Harpoon, who ran second in the Sam Davis, but said one start, won by a half a length in a maiden race.
Yeah.
Got a lot of big stakes horses around there. And listen, this may be a very, very good horse, but I just don't know how it justifies being in the future wager.
So he's in.
What do I know?
And a Grade 1 winner like Bondholder isn't in. It makes a lot of sense. Way to go on the future wager, guys. That's terrific. All right, Steve, a quick note on a filly we were following very closely a year ago. A Blue Azant has had a few setbacks, but she is nearing a race again, if only one would fill for her in California. Still being trained by John Sheriffs, who had her back east last summer. Now John is back in California with her. And love to see a Blue Azant come back and run well one of these days soon. And good luck to her and all her connections. Steve, I just returned from New York, where I saw an NHL game outside in Yankee Stadium. Next to horse racing, hockey is the worst marketed sport. Yet they've hit on an actual winning formula, which is playing a handful of games outdoors in stadiums. It's caught the imagination of fans. They're flocking to these games even in 10 and 20-degree weather. It's a throwback because the players grew up playing outdoors when they were kids. They love it. Everybody is loving it. Got me thinking that perhaps horse racing should try some kind of throwback days, encouraging fans to come back to the racetrack and actually wager and watch the sport as it was meant to be experienced. If we can get people out there, Steve, in 10-degree weather, can we get people to racetracks to watch horses run?
Well, let me say this first of all, by the way. I got to back up a little bit and take issue with something you said about hockey being the worst marketed sport. I totally disagree. I think hockey's become one of the best marketed sports. I think they've made a significant comeback. I mean, their ratings have been up. All these outdoor games have been, one of them drew 105,000. The others are packing Dodger Stadium and Yankee Stadium. There is a resurgence in hockey, so I'm not going to knock their marketing. I think of all the sports, they've done a heck of a good job with marketing. And further, what you said, it just shows you that racing can follow their footsteps. I mean, we've seen what marketing did for poker, and we've seen what it did for wrestling and for cage fighting and all the stuff. And now even with hockey, now it's picking up. We just don't hire the right people. We have nobody to do marketing for racing. We got to come up with something clever. We have not done anything clever in racing, and I don't know, maybe never. Really,
That's a very long time, Steve.
Well, back in the old days, the problem is racing didn't need marketing. It sold itself. It was the only game in town, and along with baseball and boxing, it was one of the three most popular sports in America. It's not like that anymore. But we're just, sitting on our hands and not going out and hiring clever marketing people. I look at the Super Bowl ads, not that they were great, but they were imaginative. Come out and do things. I mean, if they can sell milk, you can sell horse racing. Do something
Steve,
interesting.
There was one good marketing campaign. It was called Pay the Lady. And the geniuses involved in the sport decided to dump it. Almost as soon as it got popular, it was gone. It was the one thing that caught fire in the last 20, 25 years, and they did away with it. So
well, right now they have that that TV show Horse Players. You ever hear? I mean, after the first episode, you hear anybody talking about it? You see it being promoted? No. Is racing promoting that show? Yeah, it's a pretty interesting show. Nobody's promoting it. I don't hear anybody talking about it. Yeah. It's crazy. It's a losing battle until they get somebody in here who knows marketing. Doesn't have to be a racing person. Somebody that knows the public and knows how to sell a product. One thing about the American public, they will buy anything. Anything, no matter what you sell them, they will buy it. You just have to go out and sell it, and we don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to hockey. And, Steve, I'll take exception to your taking exception because other than these outdoor games, nobody watches hockey. But they did get that right, and hopefully they expand their base. And it's a lesson for horse racing. Think outside the box. Do something radical. Get fans involved. Give them a share of a horse. Give away an ownership in a horse to somebody out of the track. Do something. All right. We want to thank our viewers. We want to thank our sponsor, Darby Dan Farm. We will be back with you in 2 weeks, February 19th, for our special President's Day show. We're in negotiations with Honest Stable Boy for a special appearance on that show. You don't want to miss that. I'm talking to you, Chad Brown. All right. Steve, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care.
All right. See you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Go horse racing.